Hi, I'm Dr. William Elliott, and this is Fundamentals of Finance, FN 5521 at John Carroll University. And this is the fall 2025 semester. I'm going to give you a few details about the course, introduce you to the system that we'll be using, which is Canvas, and some of the deadlines that are going to be important. While this is a totally online asynchronous class, there are some deadlines for the material that you're reading and homework and so forth. I also require that you take the midterm exam at a specific time in the middle of the semester, and that you also meet with me in office hours. We can do that either on Zoom or live. If you happen to be on campus and would prefer that, that's fine as well. So without any further ado, let me get over to the iPad here, get out of the way, and I'll start showing you around the class. So here we have the home page for the class. And the first thing that you'll see here is this video. And actually, this one that you're looking at right here is for the summer session, but I will be updating that shortly with this particular video. And then down here, you will see the syllabus, modules, Zoom, that are all quick links to those activities. And hang on just one second. Let me get back over here. And okay, so here we are. So let's first talk about the course and the prereqs for that course, for the course, I should say. So the course is really an introduction. This is for those of you who have not done a business undergraduate. So you haven't had business finance or the introduction to finance. So this will kind of bring you up to level with the students that have done a undergraduate business degree. The other thing to keep in mind, and I think is very important for this class for you to be as successful as possible, is that you have already met all of the prereqs. There's one accounting and two econ classes that are prereqs to this course. If you haven't taken those classes, you need to get in touch with me before you continue with this class. I don't recommend that you do that unless you've got some other background that has filled in some of the blanks that these classes serve to provide to you. They give you a really good foundation. The accounting is really the language of business, and econ is really business itself. I mean, that all of our business disciplines derive from economics. Finance is simply financial economics, so it's really a sub-discipline of economics. So all three of these courses are very important: AC 5521, EC 5521, and EC 5522. If you have not had those, let's have a conversation. I don't recommend that you take this class without that background. A little bit about myself. I came to this profession rather in the middle of my working life, and did a PhD at the University of Arizona, and started working at UW Oshkosh, moved to Oklahoma State University, where I spent 8 years, and then 7 more years at UT El Paso, and I started my career here at John Carroll in 2014. I have a variety of research interests, in particular stock splits, security issuances, capital structure, valuation, executive compensation, as well as a little dabbling into mergers and acquisitions. Here's an example. These journals here, the Journal of Accounting and Economics, Journal of Business, JFQA, and so forth. These are links to articles that I've published in those journals. I've been fortunate to publish in the very top journals in the finance and economics area, and this could give you an idea of some of the work that I've done on the research side as opposed to the teaching side of my career. The other thing that I've just recently finished up was a 6-year stint as co-editor at one of the premier finance journals, the Journal of Financial Research. And again, this link right here is a live link to that journal, and you're certainly welcome to read some of those articles. Most of them are a bit technical, but reading the introduction, reading the conclusion gives you the gist of the article without having to dig through all of the minutiae in the body of the article. In terms of contacting me, email or my cell phone are the two best ways to get in touch with me. That would be welliott@jcu.edu, and the phone number, my cell number, is area code 915 203-8351. You can certainly use my office number as well, but it's more likely that you'll get in touch with me quicker on the cell phone or via email. So, as I said earlier, this class is asynchronous, but that doesn't mean without schedule. And by that, I mean each of the sections of the material that we cover in this class, there is a deadline by which you have to complete that material. Now, if you're saying to yourself, but wait, I'm working, I'm taking another class, I have family obligations, we're going on a vacation, something of that nature, maybe you're out of town for work, on business for work, I certainly understand that, and I'm willing to accommodate you in those activities. And the only proviso is that you need to let me know in advance, all right? If you don't let me know in advance, I'm going to assume you just missed the assignment, and that would be a 0. If you let me know in advance, I'm perfectly happy to work with you and adjust the schedule and try to adapt to you some of the needs that you may have. In terms of homework and the reading, I curve those to 100%. If you've attempted anything at it, and you've gotten a reasonable score, don't worry about, dotting all the I's, crossing the T's. I will curve that up. And in fact, I do that mainly to provide incentive for you to study. I'd rather that you actually go through this and do the homework on your own. If you don't get the right answer, don't worry about it. What I don't want you to do is to run this through AI. That's going to do you absolutely no good. And eventually it's going to come back to haunt you if you don't do the work on your own. I'm going to skip over this, but you should certainly read it. Some of the technical requirements for the course. I do try to get back to you within no less than 24 hours, but many times, especially during the regular semester like we're in right now, it will be much quicker than that. So feel free to, if it's past 24 hours, I may have missed it in my email inbox. I apologize, but feel free after 24 hours to just send me a little nudge and I'll happily get to that. But typically I do get back to you within a few hours. All right, so that's the home page here. Now, the next thing I want to show you are the modules. And each of these modules has a series of chapters. This first one actually just has the first chapter associated with it. And when you click into this, you will find some details about the learning goals that we have for this particular set of material. You will get the readings here on that will be on the McGraw-Hill's SmartBook 2.0 and Connect system. That's another piece of software. If you aren't familiar with that, the first time you click on an assignment, it will take you to a spot where you can pay for the subscription, and that will give you the subscription not only to the ebook or what they call the SmartBook 2.0, but it'll also give you a subscription to Connect, which is where you'll do your homework. This particular module is the introductory video that you're watching right now, so don't worry about that. Another thing that I want to point out here is that you should certainly take advantage of the free subscriptions to Wall Street Journal and Barron's. This is only for you with the jcu.edu email address, so make sure when you do sign up for it that you use your jcu.edu email address. I will have some readings out of that. In fact, I have some right up here. The first article is out of Barron's, and I would ask that you would go into the discussion forum after you've read that and post some comments about that article. Maybe you've got a question about it. Feel free to ask that question there. Maybe you just have a comment about it, or maybe you're answering someone else's question about the topic of this article. So there's already one article right there for you to start on. But this would be an example of that of a module and the work that you'll do in it. Down here at the bottom, and you can't see it because I'm in the way. Let me get out of the way. You will see a little next button, so you can easily go through these modules just by hitting the next button. This takes you to the resources page, which doesn't have anything for chapter 1. I don't have a slide deck for that. but the subsequent chapters all have a slide deck attached so that you can go through the slides as you're watching my videos. I have video lectures for every chapter after chapter 1. And so I recommend that you do those. They can run to an hour, hour and a half. I understand that your time is valuable, so try to get through that as much as possible. I think it will help you, and I try to provide you with some additional guidance above and beyond what's in the text. But here's an example of the second module, and we have 3 chapters here. We have chapters 2, 3, and 4. And then you have the links to the reading. That's going to take you off this page. Let me just show you, for example. And it will take you to the McGraw-Hill website. And you'll be asked to, actually, I have not connected this yet, but at this point, you'll be asked to sign up for the McGraw-Hill account, and then it will take you to the assignment itself. Let's see. Let me get back to that module, and hang on just one moment. All right. So here we are, the reading. Here are the lectures. The lectures are on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, and I just find that that allows me to have a higher resolution and better audio quality. I think that's important. If I'm asking you to watch this, I don't want you to watch, fuzzy video and poor audio. It's not fair. So that's that piece of it. Let me get back to the modules. And then down here at the very bottom are the homework problems. And you need to do all of these. There's usually between 15 to 20 homework problems. About half of them are analytical. The other half are typically conceptual and definitional. So make sure that you go through all of those. Those should be highly correlated with what you'll see on the exams. So let me get back to the syllabus here, and we'll go through the syllabus in a little bit more detail. So there's my contact info again. Office hours, because this is a regular semester, I have a face-to-face class on campus. And so if you'd like to meet face-to-face, my normal office hours are 12 noon till 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then also from 5 o'clock till 6 p.m., also on Tuesdays and Thursdays. But I'm happy to meet with you via Zoom in the evenings or on weekends. All you need to do is to get in touch with me, and we'll set up a mutually agreeable time. I'm just going to scroll through the learning objectives here and the course description. Let's get down to the required text. This is a text written by Stephen Ross, Randolph Westerfield, and Brad Jordan. Brad Jordan is a very good writer, and so the text is very approachable, tries to do a good job, and is hopefully something that you'll find enjoyable to read. It is the 2024 release. There is a more current release, but I don't feel that it's necessary to shift to that newer release at this moment. You are required to use this because you're graded with the reading with the SmartBook 2.0 and the homework. If you have any questions about how to do it and how to get connected with this, there's a short video right here that takes you to McGraw-Hill's website and a short video about their system. The other thing that is required in this class is that you have some sort of financial calculator. I'm going to be using a Texas Instruments BA2 Plus. It's probably the most widely used model of financial calculator. It's not the best by any stretch. HP makes some excellent devices as well. But what I'm going to be showing you, I'm showing you on a BA2 Plus. Let me give you a brief example of that. I have a simulator or an emulator here on my iPad. We're going to be using predominantly the top 3 rows here on the calculator. And most useful is that third row where we have N, That would be a number of periods. We have I over Y, which is the interest rate or the discount rate. PV is the present value. PMT is if you have a reoccurring payment. And then FV is for future value. And you're going to be entering data into these things and using this to calculate the value of an annuity, the value of any sort of future cash flow. You'll use this. There are formulas, and you could use a regular ordinary calculator or a scientific calculator. This just makes your work so much easier. And once you've used this thing, you'll find it quite valuable, and probably won't want to go back to the formulas. All right. Now, in terms of the grading for this class, the SmartBook 2.0 is 15% of the grade. The homework is worth 25% of the grade. So together, that's 40% of your grade is related to what I would think of as reward for effort. I mean, if you don't put any effort into anything, you're not going to learn anything. So as an economist, I like to match up, the effort with incentives. And so this is an incentive to do the reading and to do the homework and not to run it through AI. I can see how long it takes students to work through the homework. And I've seen students who get through the homework in 5 minutes. I know they're using AI. I know that they're not learning anything. So please don't do that for your own sake. It's really to your benefit not to use AI. And as long as you get this turned in on time, you'll get 100% credit. So 100% on 40% of the class goes a long ways towards moving the midterm and the final exam scores up considerably. And that brings me to the midterm and final exam. Midterm is worth 25%. The final exam is worth 35%. So 60% of the classes on tests. They are multiple choice. And more details about that when you get to the midterm and the final. But the final is cumulative, and it is focused on the chapters after the midterm. However, the last 4 chapters and chapter 3 out of the midterm material will be on the final exam as well. So don't just do a brain dump after the midterm. You're going to need that material on the final exam. That's why it's worth 35% as opposed to only 25% on the midterm. How those grades convert into letter grades is right here. And I suspect that's not too big a surprise. You've probably seen that in a variety of other classes. I do round up, so a 91.5 in my book, that's an A. I don't have to do anything about it. Now, if you have a 91.2 or 3 or 4, I will look at your other work and I'll try to, find any reason to round that up even. But 91.5, it's definitely an A. 88.5, that's an A minus, and so on. One other thing to mention up here, the midterm and final exam, I do curve that. So when you do see that score, don't be too shocked, right? It's not the end score. I usually need to add a good 10 points to those scores to make them reasonable. Let's see, the formatted class, I've talked about that already, talked about the readings and the homework. Here you can just read through about the exam. I've actually set this up for the midterm to occur between October 9th and October 12th. So try to stick to that. And, like I said earlier, if you have a commitment on those dates and you can't take it there, you want to take it earlier, that's fine. You want to take it a little bit later, that's also fine. Just let me know in advance. Happy to work with you. Email protocol. Please make sure you put FN 5521 in the subject line somewhere so that when I filter my emails, I can find your email more easily. Also, my last name often gets misspelt, and I think that that's good habit to get in, is to make sure you address whoever it is you're talking to by spelling their name properly. Shows that you're taking care in your process. This is just some additional boilerplate on academic honesty and so forth. So, read through that. As far as the schedule of topics, we're starting with chapter 1 here, and that's just an introduction. Chapters 2, 3, and 4 get into financial statements and long-term financial planning. So there you're going to be looking at things like, what is an income statement? What is a statement of cash flows? What is a balance sheet? You're also going to be looking at a lot of ratios. Ratios are a way that we try to understand and compare one company to another. So you're going to look at things that are related to profitability. So you'd be looking at a gross profit margin, a net profit margin, ROE, ROA, that is return on equity, return on assets, things of that nature. So those first 3 chapters after the introductory chapter are really important. You need to build a sound foundation before you go on. Chapters 5 and 6 are also super important just overall in your study of finance. You'll be using time value of money in every single finance class. Even if you're not majoring in finance or if that's not your career, you'll need it for 5551 when you take that course. We start in chapter 5 with just a single sum and present value of a single sum or the future value of a single sum. And then in chapter 6, we get into multiple sums, and we can calculate present values or future values, or we can even, with a present value and some future cash flows, we can calculate a rate of return, that sort of thing. And that's where you're going to be using that financial calculator in particular. Chapters 5 and 6 lay the groundwork for 7 and 8. 7 and 8 is all about valuing securities. 7 is valuing bonds, understanding interest rates, and determining the price of a bond. Chapter 8 is how do we value a stock? How do you figure what's a fair value for a stock? How do people figure out what price they should be willing to pay for a particular stock? That's what chapter 8 is all about. And in both of those chapters, we use time value of money. So there are actually 2 videos that I've done on chapter 6. That's such an important part. And if you don't get that, make sure that you get in touch with me so that we can do office hours and I can help give you additional work on those sorts of topics so that you'll understand it more thoroughly. After chapter 8, you're going to need to take the midterm. And please just reach out to me so that we can schedule a specific day when you're actually going to take it. I'll open it up for the day. So you're at, you can take it at any point during that day, but I will need to hear from you so that I know which day you would like to take that exam on. Then after the midterm, we get into what's generally called capital budgeting. That's figuring out whether a project that a company is thinking about engaging in is worth engaging in. I mean, how much is that going to increase the value of the company? And one of the things that we have to look at first is what rule are we going to use to determine that? And there's this thing called net present value, or NPV. That is the best rule, so to date anyway, that we use to determine whether a capital budgeting project is worth doing or not. There are a number of other rules that have been used in the past, and still to this day, some people will use them. So we'll study those rules too, but mainly so that you just know what might be, what you might encounter at work. I'll give you a brief example. I worked for a Glastron boat company back in the last century, and the CEO of that company had a payback rule. You had to prove that your project could pay back all of its costs within a 2-year period of time. It was a tough rule to get a project to make, and as a result, I believe that that's part of why Glastron Boat Company is no longer what it used to be. The name is still out there, but it's not the same company. They refuse to take on projects that they should have taken on, that other companies that were our competitors did take on, and they're now more of a household name. You've heard of Bayliner, but you've probably never heard of Glastron. Maybe you've never heard of either of them if you're not into boats. But if you're into boats, you probably heard of Bayliner. Well, Bayliner eclipsed us because they did some of the smart projects. They used the MPV rule instead of a 2-year payback rule. Anyway, so the other 2 chapters expand upon that, how to make capital investment decisions and project analysis and evaluation, just slightly different techniques. Then we move on to risk and return. So you may have heard of the capital asset pricing model, aka CAPM. And if you haven't heard of that, you probably heard of beta. And beta is out of the CAPM. So these 2 chapters, first we start by looking at the history of returns in equity markets in particular. And then in chapter 13, we start building your knowledge about how the capital asset pricing model was developed and how to use it and understand the relation between risk and return. In a nutshell, the higher the risk, the higher the return, or vice versa. You can't get a high return without taking on higher risk. If somebody tells you otherwise, they're probably lying to you. Then after that, the last 2 chapters, chapters 14 and 16, we get into cost of capital. Now, cost of capital actually relates back up to the capital budgeting, because in that we used a discount rate, but we really didn't talk at great length as to where that discount rate came from or how we determined it. And that's because you really need to know the theory behind the pricing, which is CAPM and beta, and then you need to incorporate that with the cost of other forms of capital, such as debt, and we come up with the weighted average cost of capital, or WACC. And that's what chapter 14 talks about. Chapter 16 rounds out your study in this particular class by discussing leverage and capital structure. And that's really just it's about how much debt versus how much equity the firm uses to pay for its assets. So a firm can issue shares of equity. Those are stocks that you see traded on the NYSE and the NASDAQ, or it could do a bond issue. Or it could also borrow from its banker, but similar to a bond issue, you're borrowing money at a fixed rate and you're required to pay it back, or you will be taken into bankruptcy court. So those are 2 types of securities that we use to fund the asset base that is used by the corporation to either manufacture its product or to buy office space for if it's more of a service company for the employees to work from. So that's the entire course in terms of content. This is just a little more boilerplate here. Let me stop here, though, on the quizzes and exams. Just a bit of a warning. I do use the Lockdown Browser and Respondus. Lockdown Browser is a piece of software that when you're using your computer to take the exam, it prevents you from going out onto the web or using any other software on the computer. You will have to load this Lockdown Browser on your computer. So if you're using a work computer and you don't have administrative rights to that computer, you may want to look for a different computer, or maybe your company will allow you to add this software. It all depends. You'll have to check with your specific business. Same thing for Respondus. You will need a camera because you're going to scan your work area, and then it will monitor your eyes and make sure that you're not, browsing around to anything else that may be nearby. Now, I also do recognize that during the exam, I allow you to have a formula sheet and some scratch paper, and obviously you're going to have your calculator. By the way, I didn't show you the BA2 Plus. I just recall that. So here is a BA2 Plus. Right here, this one happens to be in the black format. There are different colors to these animals, but pick up one of those. I think they're $30. They're under $40, I believe. You can go to Amazon or just wherever you'd like to pick one of these up. But make sure that you do have that Lockdown Browser installed before you take the test, so that you don't have to worry about getting that installed while you're in the middle of studying and prepping for the exam. Likewise, make sure that you have a camera connected to your computer. If you need some help on that, our IT group at John Carroll should be able to help you. Also, during an exam, if you get locked out for some reason or you lose Wi-Fi connection, use my cell phone and contact me immediately so that I can help you. I can restart the exam. I can give you more time if need be, that sort of thing. So that's about it there. And so let me go back here to the to Canvas. I do post some announcements occasionally. Those will come out via email, so you'll be able to see them in the email. The grades. So grades are, I have weighted the assignments in Canvas. However, I want to warn you, you cannot always use those final course grades to calculate your actual course grade. And that's because whatever grades have been turned in. So let's say that you've done all your homework, you've done all your reading, and you've taken the midterm, and you look at your final course grade. Well, it's only going to account for the midterm and the homework and the reading that you've done up to that point. And the ratio between homework, reading, and midterm is going to be different than the ratio between homework and reading and the midterm plus the final. So as a result, that grade may be biased upward. And so don't use that. Use the percentages that I have in the syllabus, get your calculator out, and actually calculate it by hand. Now, if you've done the homework and the reading and you assume you're going to get 100% on the rest of it, you've just taken the midterm, then that's 40% on the homework and reading plus 25%. So you've got 65% of the grade. So you could calculate it based on 65% and get an indication of what you might get overall. But be careful of that. Don't just assume that when you look on Canvas that that's automatically going to show you a very accurate estimate of your potential final grade for the course. Other than that, I think that is all I wanted to talk to you about here. So if you have any additional questions, I'm available. Again, just contact me via email or on my cell phone, and we could set up a meeting. Otherwise, I hope that you have a good semester, and I look forward to meeting all of you in the near term. Thank you very much.